All right, let's move to if you have a good centered position to pursue goals, and you want to know, what are the best goals to pursue. And again, from business, Peter Drucker, who is a wonderful kind of leader in business, said, don't solve problems, pursue opportunities. So that's the essence and the goal of selecting your career, your job. And if you have a job that's congruent with your preferences, interests, needs, and skills, then you'll pursue opportunities and hopefully match that style of contentment and that style of satisfaction with a job situation. So a very common assessment instrument is the career profile or the interest inventory. Thanks, buddy. And that's used at the Career One stops. It's used in Ohio Means Jobs. It's present. It's called the Career Profile. It's used nationally on onet.com as the interest profiler. And at the back page of right after the meditation sections, after the handout suggested order for implementation, you have an explanation of the 6 personality types. And the idea is that each of us needs some of these personality types. There's another handout that has a graphic of that too, but we won't need that now. So if you look at this spreadsheet, these items are the items that your son or daughter, probably in high school, would actually take to see what type of personality to match with the work environment. Everybody find that? Yes. Okay. And the first type is artistic, and you can see from the items, it's play a musical instrument, compose, draw pictures. The next type is conventional, and that would be detail-oriented, and that would be assembling parts, operating a calculator, keeping shipping and receiving records. And the next component would be entrepreneurial, and that would be maybe running for class office, being a manager, starting your own business, marketing a new line of clothing. The next category would be investigative, and that could be developing a new medicine, conducting chemical experiments, etc. And then very common among a lot of students I worked with is realistic, the R, and you can see teaching sports, repairing and installing locks, being a carpenter, being an electrician, being a plumber, being a warehouse operator. And the last category, which hopefully our teachers are strong in, is social. And that's volunteer work, taking care of young people at a daycare, teaching a high school class. So again, to go back to our pathway metaphor, if we look at that pathway and you look at artistic, you see the behaviors that are on the test. And they're to write books, play an instrument, compose, and those behaviors are what's standardized to say, yep, if you follow that pathway and you rate that high with all 4s, then you're on the pathway to do something artistic. But of course, as parents and leaders, you're thinking, well, what other behaviors would match artistic that you could reinforce in your son or daughter? And if you think of behaviors that are like the A's we have on the spreadsheet, you can reinforce that emerging interest. And the fun of it, which is the sine qua non, the most important thing, the thing you really get your bang for a buck. If you can take a person where they are artistically, say they're drawing, and they need a little work and perspective, And if you're an art teacher and you can teach them how to set perspective so they can create it in their drawings, then you're pushing that person just where they need to be. And I think we all want to do that with our friends, with our family members, with the people we love. You know, you take them, you support them to a point where they come up with something challenging, and then you say, you can do this. You know, this is important. You can do it, and I support you to do this. So whether it's therapy or cleaning your room, whatever behavior is a little challenging, to push that person to accomplish that behavior and to move into a zone where something new is acquired. And that could be leading to competitive employment, and hopefully it's competitive employment that stresses your interest, your personality skill level that's high. Now, that doesn't mean someone who's realistic and is an auto mechanic can't be investigative, because they may need to figure out, gee, where's that knock in the car coming from? What other cars do I know that had the similar knock? So we all use all 6 of these, but according to the theory, and I think it makes some sense, we have a predominant part where someone who's social needs to be social. They need to talk with people. They need to be listening to people. They need to be connected with people. And they may be realistic in that they're going around their classroom and they're setting up workstations and they're setting up tables, but they're really interested in those boys and girls. They're interested if they feel comfortable, if they feel like they belong. They're interested to see if they're learning new things. And that social part is strong, although they're doing the investigative part. You know, somebody needs to remember to do a field trip form. They're figuring out, gee, I know if I send home a note and I put it in this compartment of the bag, it's going to get home. So we use all of them, but we want to know which one is the strongest. So let's start out with us. If you could please look at that and decide and see if it's valid with what you like and what you really like to do. See which one of these would fit you. The artistic, the conventional, the entrepreneurial, the investigative, the realistic, or the social. I had the good fortune to overhear a conversation, and it was 2 individuals talking about how they would work together, say for a joint venture. And one person said, well, I have these characteristics, and that's who I am. And the other person said, well, I have these characteristics, and that's who I am. And I thought, wow, that's really how life is, that if you're a very, say, creative person, and you're maybe not too detail-oriented, and details may be a weakness. And if you're really strongly social, you may not be that investigative, willing to sit down and be in doubt about a process and be constantly trying different things. So the opposite of our strengths is our weaknesses. And I thought, well, is this true? And when I was preparing this talk, so I found Ray Dalio, and he is just after the meditation. And Ray Dalio was a very unsuccessful high school student. His mother would say, go to your room and study. And Ray wouldn't do it. And did terrible in high school. And then all of a sudden, Ray got to college and found out he could choose his classes, and he could take things he was interested in, and got interested in business. And it turned out Ray Dalio was one of the most successful businessmen in the world. Runs Bridgewater Capital, which is one of the most successful investment firms in the world, and he's a billionaire. And he came up with these 10 characteristics for using your strengths, your personality type, and it may not be captured here because this isn't the end all and be all, but it's knowing that strengths. Again, it's pursuing opportunity, doing things that you like to do, and he said be truthful about it. And you're going to fail, but move forward. Learn from your disagreements. how important for an IEP team. If you're driving an IEP team and you want to know the 6 factors where your son or daughter can be successful, and you want that whole team pulling together to find that perfect work environment, you're going to have disagreements. But you do have a unifying common interest. And then the center of Ray's success, and the success had to come from all the information in the world is already in markets. It's set in the price of things. You have to be able to see what other people don't see. And it's the same for us. You have to have a vision for your son or daughter that is something that maybe others don't see. Maybe your son or daughter doesn't see it. But because you've paid attention to the characteristics, the person's expressions, you've been watching that boy or girl play since they were a baby, you have an idea where that could go. And you can get them at that sweet spot where they just need a little extra encouragement to master the next skill. And then he talks about the 5 things that you need to do to accomplish your passion. He said, what is your goal or passion? And then what challenges or problems? What is the obstacle to getting that job? Be honest, diagnose the problem, and then what do you do to get around it? Assistive technology, a mentor, a script, all the things we do to get the workplace comfortable for a student. And then you take that habit. For Navy SEALs, it was making your bed and then going through the process. In work, what do you do right that the boss is going to like, that's going to meet the company mission, and then how do you build on that and repeating that cycle. But in that cycle is going to be some failure, is going to be some frustration. That's why the meditation comes into play, and that's why using your strengths, because that's where your passion will be, really pays off. I'm out of time. Thank you. Thank you very much.